Hi, everyone. My name is Erica. I'm going to be talking with Tara and whoever she ends up connecting to today to talk about pre birth planning. This is a topic that I find fascinating, and we thought it'd be a really great idea to uh, dig into this a little bit deeper and see what answers we can get from the entity she is able to connect to today.
Okay.
Awesome. Who is Tara connected to today?
We are of Dragones, seventh dimension.
Is this the same entity that we connected to last time we attempted to record this video?
Not the same, but you can consider us cousins.
Okay. Seventh dimension, what polarity?
Neutrality.
And why are you qualified to talk to us today about pre-birth planning?
We have no input one way or the other, positive or negative. We merely want to lay out how we understand it from our point of view, so that perhaps those of you who seek neutrality might be able to integrate this knowledge.
Awesome. Can you explain what pre-birth planning is to those who might not be familiar with the concept or the term?
It is creating somewhat of an outline or a sketch before you incarnate. Doesn't necessarily have to be within the third dimension, but an incarnation within any dimension. One needs some sort of roadmap, some sort of guide before they are to take on a new life, especially if one has trouble remembering where they have come from or where they are to go. So it is something that is written down, not on paper, but perhaps in one's soul. So it is felt on the inside, not something that can be found elsewhere.
So what is your perspective on this? And what's something that you would want people to know about pre-birth planning or if they're searching for neutrality?
Perhaps I could give myself as an example. I would not necessarily consider myself to be my own higher self, although I do embrace that aspect of myself. I embrace all the incarnations that I have ever been, both positive and negative, to help me now in this neutral state that I find myself in. But of course, I have asked myself to be here. And so before coming into this form that I am now, I would have written down or outlined the things that I would like to accomplish, the experiences I would like to have, and the ways that I would like to learn as a neutral being, something that might be more difficult if I was a positive polarity or a negative polarity. And so it is all rather personal. It depends on what the individual soul would like to accomplish. And so, as though are those that are trying to find themselves, really what you're trying to do is to understand your mission here, your placement here, but you will not find it in others just as much as you will not even find it in me. It is more of an inward journey, and this is the journey of the neutral perspective as we go inwards and we look at all as but a mirror of ourselves, seeing the neutrality in all, the positive, the negative, and trying to understand it and how it correlates to the creation of our own reality, individualized.
So I've heard where people have pre-birth planned for something negative to happen in their lifetime. Um, and then the opposite, planning for something positive to happen in their lifetime. So would you say that these are just lessons that people are needing to learn at the soul level? for ascension or for just understanding the opposite polarity?
It is a multi-layered answer, for there are those that would choose to have something, perhaps as you see it, negative to happen in their life or positive to happen in their life. But we would even have to take a step back even further. It is not written in the pre birth planning that something positive or negative would happen, but rather that they would have certain upbringing or certain memories, perhaps of a past life, that would create certain programming or certain traumas that would help them to make certain decisions that would bring them into an alignment with something that, as you said, might be positive or negative. But again, this would all be for their learning experience. You mentioned ascension. Yes, there are those that are on an ascension and as well as a descension path. And yes, all those can happen at exactly the same time, as all timelines overlap and time does not exist. So if one was on an ascension path and they decided that in order to ascend, they must have certain situations or problems, or perhaps they run into certain people in their lives, well, then yes, they create this for themselves, but it is not written in intricate detail before their birth. Again, it is like I said, they surround themselves in their upbringing, both in the past and in this present life, to create the energy that they manifest those situations for themselves if they are to be in alignment with what they would like to accomplish in their pre birth contract, so to speak.
Can you share a little bit about how we can become more conscious participants in our pre birth plan while we're alive here on Earth?
Yes, and perhaps again, I might reiterate that it is a rather personal journey. It
Mhm.
is an individualized journey. So everyone is going to look a little bit different. But that is the purpose of all things, is it not? To aid the one, which is source, which is all of us. So before coming into here, you might also add little reminders that this is not the only dimension, the only world that exists. So when you incarnate, you might notice things that are a little out of sorts for the third dimension. Perhaps you see certain symbols or signs, you might call it, repeating numbers or synchronicities. And all of these, as much as they are created not only by your, what you might say is your spirit team or your guides, but those guides are very much you. So you have created those synchronicities for yourself. Whether you acknowledge them or not is also based upon your pre birth planning. There are those that choose to serve this lifetime for just lessons. They choose not to awaken, so to speak, not to ascend or descend, but merely to experience a lifetime. But perhaps if in this lifetime you would like to awaken, so to speak, meaning to understand self, this does not make one better or worse than another, but it is merely part of a mission. And so, if someone would like to awaken themselves, they might place something in their path that might make them question this reality when things begin to happen over and over again, repeating patterns, repeating numbers, repeating relationships, repeating energies that you find yourself in to help you to wake up to these certain things. And when one realizes that these things happen outside the self because of what is going on inside the self, then the inward journey begins.
It's fascinating. So I guess that's the point of learning is identifying those cycles and then moving out of them so that way you can really integrate that lesson.
Precisely.
So when I spoke to, I guess you mentioned your cousin, or the other being that we spoke to, and when I asked a question about souls incarnating the same timeline more than once, he told me that my soul was on Earth at this time incarnated into five different people. So five different souls. And I just found that fascinating. And I just had a follow up question on that, if you can answer. Just curious, why would a soul choose to split and incarnate simultaneously? In my case, 6 times.
It is for the same reason that you were taught in school to work in collaborative groups. Many of you might remember in the school setting, a teacher might place everyone into a group to complete a particular project. There might be one that is the recorder, one that is the presenter, one that is the artist, so on and so forth, in order to complete a singular objective. And that is to get everything together for this report. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone is writing a report. However, if you are to complete a particular mission, and let's say there are many things that you would like to complete in this mission, many things that you would like to learn, perhaps you are in a hurry, so to speak, for your ascension or to understand a particular lesson. It might be a lot to place upon the shoulders of one individual. Therefore, the soul might split into different individuals in order to accomplish that one task. It is not important that these individuals all find each other, because once all have completed their mission here, i.e., have died or ascended or both, then they would find themselves together again. The soul is one once again. But this also occurs in a multitude of lifetimes that are all occurring at this singular moment. So, although in this moment, in this one timeline, you might have 5 other aspects of yourself, remember that those are split even further into an infinite number of timelines, again, in this one singular moment.
So is that all planned in the pre-birth planning moment where the soul, like say Erica's soul or the master soul, decides and during the pre-birth planning, like, okay, we're going to split up 5, 6 different times to learn this lesson quicker?
Yes, and I might also add that this plan can be morphed and changed throughout one's current lifetime. Let's say, for example, for yourself. I'm not saying that this is currently happening, but I'm giving this more as an example. Let's say for yourself, you have decided on a subconscious level, at a soul level, that there's one more thing you would like to add into this journey, but that doesn't quite fit the model of the Erica that you inhabit currently. Therefore, you might call upon another aspect of your soul to aid you in this particular lifetime. Perhaps it might be on this planet, perhaps not on this planet, or not even within this dimension, but another soul would be born. Some might take this as they might have to birth that soul, and that is not necessarily true. But wherever this soul is born, which is an aspect of you, it is again to aid you on this journey. So you might find this new soul in a new form outside of this realm, or perhaps on this planet, might be the birth of a puppy or the birth of a human child, perhaps the birth of a plant. But all are aspects of you. And if you were wanting to say, understand what it means to network and truly connect to the all, perhaps you would like to split yourself off into a tree in order to understand that, as they are very good with their networking skills. So this contract or this pre-birth planning can be changed and morphed at any time, even during one's current lifetime.
That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. I was always under the impression that your pre-birth plan or contract was what it was and it wasn't changeable.
Nothing is set in stone. Everything is flexible. Everything is amorphous, because that is what it is like outside of the third dimension. Nothing is ever concrete. We can always shift and change. And this is why I've come to speak, because we are very knowledgeable in this. We are the creators of everything in our reality, which means nothing is ever set.
Well, that's freeing to know. I know I have to let Tara go here in a few. I just have another quick couple of questions. So with our souls being split, is this something that every person does, or is this certain people have multiple souls incarnated?
Again, it is a very individualized,
Mhm.
personalized journey that one is on. Let's say, for instance, the vessel that I am currently speaking through only has a couple other aspects of herself. For you, you have five other aspects of yourself, but remember, this could be changed at any time. There are other persons that are within your friendship circle. Some of them have multiple aspects of themselves in others, in other beings, not just human. And some are only a singular aspect, meaning they have chosen solely to have their soul in this current vessel, in this current lifetime, as it pertains to the infinite number of timelines. But to keep it simplified, we would say that they are a singular soul at this time, and yet you are multiple souls at this time. And it all depends on what you personally would like to accomplish.
I have so many other questions, but my time is up. I have one last thing to ask you is there anything else you want to share with the audience about pre-birth planning or anything we discussed today? Any last words before I let you go?
Yes, it is rather a wonderful gift that those within this dimension have the gift of curiosity. If you are curious about why certain things happen in your life, why you have met certain people, why certain patterns exist, it is within the why that is so valuable to your journey. Some will go inwards, some will go deeply inwards, some will connect to different aspects of themselves. But remember that this is your journey. If you wish to connect to those other aspects of yourself, then by all means, go ahead, because it's what you are aligned with. It is part of your mission. And remember that that mission, those things that you wrote down, so to speak, before you inhabited this vessel, you can change that anytime. You can morph them at any time because ultimately you are one. We are all one. And you can change that journey to best suit the needs of yourself as well as the needs of the collective consciousness. And it is that connection to the collective consciousness that might also morph and change that pre birth contract.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
It's all I, yeah. Oh my goodness.
What do you remember? Anything?
Um, whew. Um, what a big it was like a big energy, and it looked like a light dragon being kind of thing. I don't really know how to describe it, but it seemed like it has incarnations of itself on Earth, and that's also why it seemed like it
Mhm.
was interested in speaking to us, because I think it's like hoping to talk to its other aspects, whether I guess it's human or whatever, listening.
Yeah.
Um, so it seemed like it kind of had a little ulterior motive, but at the same time, kind of just wanted to offer, its perspective. But yeah, I have to go back and rewatch it. But what did you think?
I thought it was fascinating. I every answer he gave me, or I say he, but it gave
Mhm.
me. I thought of like 20 other questions I wanted to ask. I'm like, we could be here for hours, but no, I thought it was really fascinating, and I'm also gonna have to go back and watch this. I the part where the five souls still just is crazy to me. Um,
Mhm.
and so I want to dig into that a little bit more. But then just the insight that it gave me about pre-birth planning, I always thought that our plan that we made before we were born was just kind of set in stone, and that's what it was. And so
Mhm.
when he was saying, like, it's no, it's just fluid and it's changeable and you
Mhm.
can change it, that's kind of freeing because it gives you the power back in your hands. And I guess
Mhm.
that's part of what free will is, right? So
Yeah. Um, there is one part that I remember, and it was that like he was showing, like I guess like if I wanted to assist myself like in this like current lifetime, um that like another aspect of me could be born. So all I kept seeing was like a tree growing in the front yard or something. Like, I decided like, okay, that part's going to be me, and maybe it needs to learn something that I couldn't understand as a human being, so I'm going to go grow a tree aspect of myself, to kind of help me out in this lifetime. And I was like, well, that's cool. I
yeah,
just kept seeing all these trees pop up, and I was like, wow.
that part was fascinating too, because it's like if you wanted to be an animal to learn something that in that form that you wouldn't be able to learn in human form.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's so cool.
Yeah, I'm like, it seemed like it could go so many directions. Like, I guess it almost sounds like it's a lot of fun. Like before I incarnate, if I'm like sketching stuff out, I'm like, well, I plan on doing, maybe something like this or experiencing this, what the heck, maybe I'll just, invite seven other aspects of myself. And then it's like, but when I get here, I'm like, oh, you know what? I wanted to also do this. So, maybe I'm just gonna like create a dog version of myself or, a plant version. I'm like, wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing we didn't really get into this time that we spoke about last time when we recorded,
Mhm.
uh, was, and I didn't really bring it up, but the like challenging challenges specifically to,
Mm.
like, I had brought up before, like abusive relationships or abusive
Mhm.
parents or like just not so ideal situations and scenarios.
Mhm.
And even though we didn't really talk about it as much today, what the previous entity we spoke to said kind of aligns with what this entity said. So the
Mhm.
previous entity was talking about how, even though we might have difficult or challenging situations like abusive partners or grow up in abusive households, they're all still
Mhm.
served as lessons for us to learn,
Mhm.
and to like lead us towards learning that polarity. So if we came to Earth saying, oh, we want to learn a little bit more about the negative polarity,
Mhm.
going through those experiences can help us learn that in a different way than we might not have originally thought of. Even though sometimes it's probably really hard to, I don't know, like grasp, because why would we
Mhm.
want to sign up for a really difficult experience? But when you put that lens of like, no, it's for the universe, like universally we're learning this
Mhm.
for all of our incarnations, it
Mhm.
gives you a different perspective. Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah. Actually, as you're talking, it brought up a book that I had read. This was probably like a decade ago, but it was a book called Many Lives, Many Masters. And it was the author of the book said that his spiritual journey began after the death of his son, his very young son. And he says, and it was in that inward journey that he had gone on that he realized that was something that he had created to experience the death of a child, and he thought that was just awful. Like he says, like, who does that? Who creates that experience? But they said it was something that was an agreement with him and the soul of his child. The soul of his child, like the child wanted to experience certain things, and then decided that he wanted to complete other missions, so he actually left this realm of
Hmm.
existence. And on the father's soul level, it was that he wanted to begin a spiritual journey because he was a doctor or scientist or something like that. And the path that he was on was not conducive to him actually having an awakening and going on a more spiritual journey. And so he wanted to create an event that would help him do that. Not necessarily like, I want to have my son pass away, but he says he wanted an event big enough. And then it was the son's soul that wanted to help with that event while also being in alignment with his own mission.
Mm-hmm.
That the two came together and created something like that. And it was that was the first time I'd ever heard of, something like that. And so then now that we're talking to these entities, and it's like, all these, we bring all these things into our lives. And I know that sometimes it could be really difficult, especially if we've had really, really difficult things like, somebody
Mm-hmm.
passing away or growing up in an abusive household, like how we could become in alignment with that. And I don't feel that it's like any sort of punishment or, not learn a lesson like bad, but more it's all just these souls coming together to experience these things. And we don't necessarily have to have it experienced in that way, but I guess perhaps, maybe we've chosen something like that, but not necessarily specifically like that.
Yeah. We didn't get into it today with the line of questioning, but you just mentioned that book. I also read a book called Your Soul's Plan recently, where they talked about how each soul, like, they work together to help each other learn the lessons that they need to learn. And so, like, the example that you gave is similar to a lot of the examples that the guy gives in the book Your Soul's Plan, which I recommend people pick up. So same thing, like son accidentally overdoses and dies, with using drugs. And then the book kind of goes into, why did the son choose to die that way? What was the lesson? And then with the mother, like, she agreed to that. What was the lesson she was going through to, and what, like, why did she even agree to that? So it's so fascinating. I feel like we could talk about this topic for hours, but I would also recommend people pick up that book too, Your Soul's Plan.
Yeah, so everybody who's watching, if you guys have book recommendations kind of based on this topic, you have your own thoughts, your own downloads, I know that there's so many people who've honed their channeling skills. So if you've channeled something and, maybe it's contrary to what this entity said, share it in the comments. I love the discussion, all the different points of view, which brings me to our guest interviewers. Thank you so much to Erica, who came here today. Actually, she came here twice because the first recording, it was an amazing like channeling. I thought she had asked some wonderful questions, and even today asked some beautiful questions. But yeah, she came back, for kind of, I guess, a part two of this channeling, and we connected with a different entity. But I love that all these guest interviewers, you guys have different backgrounds, different belief systems. Everybody's on a different, journey. That's the joy of like this whole collective, is that we go on these different journeys to kind of help the whole, help us as one. So if you would like to be a guest interviewer, all you have to do is email me, tara@kittensweightsandtarot.com. And I would love to set up a topic with you. And I find this to be just freaking fabulous. I love incorporating the community in this way. So thank you again, Erica. And thank you to everybody who has been a guest interviewer. And I guess we will catch you guys next time. Again, keep those comments coming, all those suggestions, and we will catch you later. So peace, love, and chicken grease. Peace out. Bye, guys.